For those who don't know me, my name is Jonathan, and I'm the vicar on the other side of Horsforth at St James Woodside. So, friends, when Duncan called the church leaders in Horsforth together last autumn, he shared his vision for the Lent talks this year, and it was Christianity in Britain, movements and influences, and the values they gave us. During that conversation, we wondered about introducing or including an outsider's view of the contribution that Christian faith makes to the life of our nation, and I was charged to identify a speaker. Well, friends, I'm delighted to say that I've over-delivered. And so this evening we have not one, but two speakers. Heston is a clergy colleague and vicar of All Hallows in Hyde Park in Leeds, and he originates from South Africa. And Heston is joined by his good friend Abdul Hannan, a Muslim with Bangladeshi heritage, who is the general manager of the Cardigan Centre and also a Leeds city councillor in Headingley and Hyde Park. The title of their talk is "A South African Christian and a Bangladeshi Muslim reflect on each other's faiths and values after a decade of community work and partnership in Inner City Leeds." Friends, as we prepare to hear from Abdul and Heston, I invite you to notice a connection, for those who are here, with the first of our Lent talks. Those at Lister Hill a few weeks ago will have heard the following question, and the questioner is here too, asked of the speaker, Jenny Sinclair. How best can Christians work well with Muslims? For many, this feels like an urgent question, and Jenny began her response by remarking, "Okay, and we're just starting this one at 9:01. She went on to describe the question as a genuinely difficult problem and expressed a view that the interfaith movement has not yet served us well. She suggested that what is needed to move forward is a combination of honesty and friendship. So, friends, what better companions could we have to finish our Lent series than Heston and Abdul, who have built a friendship based on such honesty and who are such a blessing to their community. It's my privilege to welcome them to Horsforth.
Hello, lovely peoples. It's very cool to be here with you, and also very cool to be here with you. I guess we should probably start off by saying something about what binds us together, and the virtuous answer is something like the covenant love of God or something like that. But also, we both are massive fans of the TV show Airwolf. I don't know if any of you did. Yeah, Chris knows Airwolf. And so this lovely man bought us matching T-shirts not long ago, and we are modeling them for the first time just for you. Lovely Abdul, what are you making of church so far tonight? This is very different from All Hallows, right?
Thank you very much for the invite and allowing me to talk to this fantastic congregation, Horsforth. How I get affection in a church is when I was 10 years old, my father took me to Eid prayers in Hare Hills, and there was no mosque, there was no community centre, and we did our Eid prayers, and nothing really stood out. After 10 years, I went back to that facility, and I realized it was a church hall where we did our Eid prayers. And it shows how affectionate Christianity is towards Islam. And I have a strong affection for St. Aidan's Church in Hare Hills. And it's something that has always stuck in my mind in terms of how other faiths reach out to Muslims in terms of embracing our religion. And I still talk about this story with my children. I've got 4 fantastic children who are a bit lost in the world, but I bring religion into it and other faiths that allows them to reconnect with society. And I say, look, This is where I did my first ever Eid prayers, was in St. Aidan's Hall in 1981.
Year after I was born. It's been a lovely thing to be Abdul's friend for just under 11 years. I've been in Leeds for 11 years, and not long after I arrived, to be the vicar of Hyde Park. This is Hyde Park, dodgy West Leeds, in West Leeds. And looking down the road here, this is Makkah Mosque, where the two of us on a regular basis go and say prayers together. Abdul manages the Cardigan Community Centre, which is just next door. So I go barge in on him for a cup of tea, and then he drags me up to the mosque. He says his prayers with everyone. I sit prayerfully at the back and soak up the beautiful piece of probably the most beautiful building in Leeds on the inside. And it's a lovely privilege. You want to tell us about your history with Hyde Park? Because I guess Hyde Park is the thing that brought us together in the first place. Hey?
So back in December 2015, I was a community engagement manager in Leeds University Union. One of my tasks was to reach out to communities. And we did a morning breakfast event, and we invited local organizations. And suddenly this guy comes and sits next to me. And
brand new vicar in town, wants to go to all the community events.
Yes, and I was a bit set back by saying, "Oh my God, what's going on here?" And the introduction was amazing. I forgot to bring the note where it said, "This is my number, this is my email address, get in touch with me." And after a week or so, I did email Heston, and he took that offer up that he wants to sit down and look at the wider aspects of community cohesion, because I had the background to work with students. Heston had a new job that he needed to settle in with. And I've got community and youth work background for the last 35 years. So, and that's how it all started.
And we had this very dense, very diverse, very interesting patch that we now shared, and to treat as our playground and a place to I guess where we're there to love our neighbors, learn to love one another, and to be committed to each other, and to seek the good of this neighborhood. Yeah, and right, so this is why I call Makkah Mosque possibly the most beautiful building in Leeds on the inside. This is on the inside. This is this extraordinary dome that they have. That calligraphy up in the dome is the 99 names of Allah, and it took a Pakistani calligraphy artist 6 months suspended in the center, up in the dome, to hand that. It is a peaceful place. It is a beautiful place. And I've had so many cool excuses to come and visit thanks to you.
The mosque is open to other faiths and other communities. We do a lot of interfaith work. Recently, we did a community iftar, and I estimated over 300 people came to join us for iftar and break fast together. And afterwards, it wasn't just about breaking iftar, but the conversations around, I know this, what it means to me now. I know this faith is more about. And a little iftar like that brings people together. And Kari Asim, who's the imam at the mosque, who has so much knowledge around community cohesion, enables that. And that's something both of us get together and work with other community leaders in terms of bringing people together through our faiths with our commitment to the community, and most importantly, to serve the community that we.
And one of the benefits, I guess, of us being friends, but also being friends with you, key community leaders and faith leaders, is that we get to model friendship to others. We get to be visibly a Christian and a Muslim who are friends with each other, and some people have just never seen that before. And so it's a lovely thing to model something. It's also an opportunity to be safe people with whom I can be a safe person who can take people into a mosque who have never been into a mosque before, but they might trust a vicar to take them. And conversely, you can be a safe Muslim who brings people to church, and you do that on a regular basis. Actually, in 24 hours' time, you will be serving us up. He's coming to our church to cook up a Bengali bistro to help fundraise for our local football club. And he's a really epic chef. He's really, really good cook. So I guess we get to be safe folks to help others be curious and to cross thresholds into the places of worship of others. where we can all find out that actually the others in there are actually quite a lot like us and not as scary as we thought before we met them.
We use food as an incentive, and being from Bangladeshi cultural background, not everybody has tried our culinary dishes. So myself and my wife Shelley, we came up with this here. Funny enough, I need to mention this. Heston and Lydia came to our house to try out Bengali food. And this was about 6 years ago, and couldn't stop them eating because they liked it so much.
Yep.
And then we managed to sit down in the living room, and the conversation started from there. Heston goes, Abdul, it's a favor. I said, of course we can.
We have a kitchen in church.
We have a kitchen in church. Do you mind coming and cooking for the church?
Could you do this for 100? And like without batting an eyelid. Yeah, we could. and they've done it. I think tomorrow night's the 5th time, isn't it? Sixth time.
6th time, yeah.
And like without breaking a sweat, they cook up like this like 3 courses of extraordinary food, and like with options as well. It's bonkers and brilliant. And so food is like you say, a really good gateway drug into friendship and into learning about each other's cultures and all sorts of good things. Yeah. So sometimes this happens. So sometimes we get to go visiting mosques together. Sometimes we get to go visit churches together. We also sometimes break out into other faiths. So this is the Mandir down the road. These are our amazing Hindu friends. They've just had the Holi festival where you throw dried paint powder at each other and you get multicolored. It is absolutely fabulous. So this is lovely Jagdish and the Mandir community who've welcomed us. This is actually there's a lovely little WhatsApp group of us. We call ourselves Interfaith Adventurers, and we go and visit each other's places of worship, and we sort of sort that all out by WhatsApp. And so Mandirs, there might be a Gurdwara photo. No, there's not. Gurdwaras and synagogues as well. We try to go and be curious about one another's faiths and learn in the process that I guess a bit about what common humanity we have, but also in the process doing the honesty stuff, slowly learning that we can trust each other with honesty, and that our differences don't have to frighten us. We can trust each other enough to actually quite enjoy one another's differences and be enriched by them and become, I guess we were saying on the way here, we're helping each other to a bigger, better understanding of God and humanity. And that helps us to be humble as well, not to assume that we Christians have the Almighty taped. Maybe we have something to learn and we need to be humble like Jesus was humble, and pay attention and learn a bit of holiness and stuff. Yeah.
We have a clear understanding. This is something is a powerful understanding, is that we agree and disagree, and but we know what our boundaries are, be it through our faith, be it through our community, be it through the leaders that we are in the community. But I have to say, to this day, we have never fallen out.
We have not.
We have never fallen out. There is a consensus that, yes, I agree and I disagree, but we're always looking at moving forward, because we want to make sure that we can give the best to the community that we serve. If you're familiar with Hyde Park, it's such a transient and diverse community, and we're always juggling with things. And it's what we have is what we manage. And we always look at smart ways of thinking. We've had a fantastic discussion 2 hours ago to look at celebrating Leeds 400. And the conversation came here, and we had a fantastic chat with Tim over there. And we've got the ball rolling. So we're going to look at how Hyde Park can embrace Leeds 400, which is going to be 400 years old in July the 13th. So we're looking at working towards that with the community that we represent.
And just to use a little dose of Christian language on this for a moment, it's incarnational stuff. It's I guess it's the committed covenant language. The reason we haven't fallen out is because we don't want to fall out. We want to disagree, but we want to stay friends. And that opting into a covenant is a really powerful thing, especially in a transient community. Long-standing friendships, and looking at you as well, lovely Tim, the folks who are actually committed to the neighborhood and who are going to stick it out for years and years and years, that's a huge gift to give to any neighborhood, and especially our one where it's thousands of students through every year or two, that we get to be the consistency, and our friendships get to be a bit of the bedrock or the foundations or something of the community. Also, you are a gift to other training vicars. That is Scott, who is now vicaring down in South Coast somewhere. he'd never been into a mosque before, and he came to join us on a church placement during vicar training, and you marched him into Jummah prayers one Friday, and now he's made friends with 2 local imams where he's in Weymouth or somewhere like that, and he's absolutely loving it, and he traces it back to Abdul came and held my hand through Jummah prayers that Friday, and I discovered that this is not a scary thing to do, that I'm allowed to be a Christian, and I'm allowed to let the Muslims be Muslims, and we can build a friendship and figure things out from there. Haha, there's Abdul and Shelley in action. This is what they're going to be doing tomorrow night, and that's why they really are as cool as cucumbers, like this photo looks. It's brilliant, and so they've been such a gift to us, again and again and again. It's a chance to also a little bit, I guess it's about diversity and about celebrating Bangladesh, but also a little bit in our life, putting hospitality at the heart of everything that we do, and not feeling as though we need to control the hospitality. We're kind of letting you host in our space, if that makes sense, and that's a really empowering thing to do. We did this when we did a little cafe collaboration with the Leeds Syrian community, and we had Nazir, Fawaz, Sosan, these amazing folks come and take over the kitchen. We basically gave them the kitchen. We said to them, you be hosts, and we will just appreciate you. We will eat your food, and we will enjoy it, and we will say thank you, and you're treating us. And their feedback was that was an extraordinary, empowering thing when, as a lot of them were asylum seekers and refugees, they had no power or agency really in life at all. They lived at everybody else's mercy and generosity. So for them to be able to be the givers was a massive gift to them. And so in a I guess a not as extreme a way, we're trying to do the same thing with you and say, you are welcome here. You come and host things in our space because we love you and we trust you, and you're going to be a blessing to us. You have also come to help make Christmas Day happen many, many, many times now. You might be our most committed Christmas guest, which is a lovely thing. So every Christmas Day, we open our community cafe for anyone and everyone who fancies coming along. So this lovely man, and also other Muslim friends, Jewish friends, Hindu friends, Sikh friends. We've had Buddhist friends and pagan friends, and actually a whole lot of friends who really aren't into God at all come along and do community Christmas together, and it's a really beautiful thing. And you bring a friend every year who would be on his own otherwise, and that's exactly the vibes in this room. Everyone who doesn't have anywhere better to be, come and do Christmas to each other. And it's
got a friend that lives on his own, and unfortunately, he doesn't want to spend Christmas with his family, immediate family, but he always says to me in September, is Rainbow Junction going to have a Christmas dinner? I said, watch this space, watch this space. Come November, are they doing it or not, Abdul? I need to know. I said, yes, they are. So I go pick him up every Christmas Day, and I bring him to All Hallows. And this year he came and took part in the service, and then he had Christmas lunch afterwards. And he goes, it just seems to be getting better and better. He's not a practicing Christian, but he realized that he does have an affection for Christianity, looking at what is going on at the church.
I hope that the next photo is going to be an Eid one, because this works the other way around as well. It's not an Eid one. So there's Abdul and a group of councillor colleagues and friends doing a cool, without another Bengal bistro, wasn't it? Yeah. But I really love this photo because of the heart rug that we have in the church. They totally get the vibes in our church. Even if that's a whole photo of politicians, they get that love is what is the force that will overcome the world and is the thing that makes the church turn. And yay. That's just a gratuitous photo of amazing Emily, who used to run the cafe, but also Abdul and Shelley are in the photo on the projector. One of the other, okay, so we do quite a lot of stuff together. A lot of it is eating and drinking and sharing hospitality, and that's lovely. In a more, in a different kind of practical sense, you had this brainwave a few years ago that Hyde Park, every year, thousands of students move out of the neighborhood all on the same weekend. They're all forced to move out on the same weekend. And so they all ditch their stuff out on the pavement. they leave behind so much stuff that is perfectly usable and really, really good. I see Tim rolling his eyes at this as well. It's actually outrageous, the amount of really high quality stuff that just goes to waste. It's a little kind of indictment, massive indictment on our wasteful way of life. So this genius man said, hey, we know people who might like to have that stuff. Let's go and intercept it. Do you want to tell us about the free shop that resulted?
We realize every year there's about 600 tons of items that is thrown away by students. So I got the council and the universities and other partners to look at how can we intercept that before it goes to the black bin and the incinerator. So for the past 6 years, Hyde Park and a few years ago, other surrounding areas, we used to intercept what was going to go to landfill, and we created a community free shop in All Hallows. And on an average a week, we would be redistributing over 4 tons of items that were donated by students. And some of the stuff still had tags on. Some of the stuff was branded. The most funniest stuff that we collected was an Ali G suit, which was completely yellow. The other ridiculous thing that we found was, I can't believe that is one of the things that a student, a singing trout. Do you remember the singing trout? And he was still singing. So that was quite funny. And somebody managed to get that. But we also look at the high profile items. We used to raffle it off to the community. One of the highlights of the community free shop was a couple once came and they said, I would like to take stuff from you. I said, of course you are. And they said, can I take that? Can I take that? Can I also take the furniture? I said, of course you can. And they said, you won't believe it. Our house got fire last week and they needed furniture. So somebody told them about our free shop. So they were able to come and take the clothes, the furniture, the pots and pans. And we also support refugees and asylum seekers who don't have a disposable income. They would come for pots and pans with lids and coats. Even though this is in the middle of the summer, we would encourage everybody to take some winter coats because obviously you know what the British climate is like. So they would come and take coats. And on an average student changeover, I think we redistribute anything up to £30,000 worth of items.
And if generosity is the divine way, it is such a divine thing to be able to say to folks, take as much as you can and then take some more. Yes, definitely take some more. Take as much as you possibly can and then come back again and take even more. It's a really lovely tonic for the austerity economy. It's abundance and it's doing an environmental bit of activism as well. It's brilliant.
We I have to mention this. We once did a free shop in St. Michael's Church in Armley. And I think it was
St. Bart's.
Yeah,
with Father Michael.
Father Michael, yes, that's it. And he was looking forward to it. And I said, I'll be there at 11:30 to come and take some pictures. When I went there, he goes, Abdul, you won't believe it. Everything has gone. And even the church chair was taken.
Yeah. we have to lock away quite like anything that we don't want that we do want needs to be locked away somewhere, otherwise it disappears.
Yeah, so
it's brilliant.
Father Michael said, my church chair has gone. I said, well, Father, it's probably gone to a good home.
Somebody who needs it, yeah. And it was a lovely thing. Just before, by the time COVID came and put a stopper to a lot of this, so this kind of started, we trialed it at All Hallows, but then by the time COVID came along, we were doing it in 8 or 9 different churches or community centres around Leeds, and especially in Armley, in Holbeck, in Hare Hills as well, Chapeltown. Like there are just so many people who struggle to have enough stuff to survive, and so it was a beautiful thing to be able to channel some of the excess and waste. COVID put a stop to that, but then in the last 2 or 3 years, we've managed to get back on track, and so this was last year, and we're hoping that we can expand again into other parts of Leeds. But that's been a really lovely thing to do together. We're also big fans of the local football club. This is a really beautiful thing. Adele, is Adele in that photo? He's not, is he? No. And this amazing Tunisian man who worships at the Grand Mosque, the other mosque in Hyde Park, he, a few years ago, said, hey, we've got a lot of kids in Hyde Park. They are bored on Saturday mornings. Let's play some football. That club now, a few years later, has, is it 300 families that are part of its life? And it has women's teams, and it has a whole load of boys' teams and men's teams and things. It is an extraordinary thing, really, really beautiful. So we're their #1 fans. And actually, tomorrow night's cooking is to raise funds for Hyde Park Football Club. Yeah. So this is us cheering on and giving medals at a mini tournament. Hey, there's you pushing it up in the front row, looking a little bit grumpy. Hey,
Can't remember why I had that expression on.
Sometimes we get to go do civic stuff together. I guess this is maybe just about the range of things that we get to share. I think this was celebrating 30 years of Kariasim, and on reasonably regular basis. I think this is thanks to you being a counselor and hanging out with posh people on a regular basis. I get to sneak in by the back door sometimes, and it's really lovely to see at a civic level that there is quite a lot of cohesion between faiths, and it's quite a sort of formal trust and association, isn't it? It's not quite friendship, but it might become friendship in time. At least it's giving the structure to what might be and what is, at least on paper, is what Leeds wants to be.
So I've been a counsellor for the last 2 years. So this is my 3rd year. One of the things I believe in is cohesion, and I'm trying to get the civic machine to understand how that is and how that should be. So we do quite a lot of faith events at Civic Hall. For the last 3 years, we've been doing some civic iftars. And the current Lord Mayor, Dan Cohen, who's Jewish, I said to him, why do we, can I help you do a iftar this year? And he opened his eyes and said, please do help us, Abdul. So we managed to get various faith groups and community groups to the iftar this Ramadan that we just finished, and we raised over £1,000 for his charity Men Cup.
And Bishop Aaron was one of his guests as well, wasn't he?
Yes, he was, yes.
Yeah. This is at Makkah Mosque, and this is when we were marking the Queen's Silver Jubilee. Yeah. So what I've discovered, I'm not very into the royal family, but what I've discovered is that a lot of these amazing Muslim friends and friends from, I guess, around the Commonwealth and the world really are into the royal family. And so it's been a very enlightening thing to learn appreciation for the British royal family through the eyes of a Bangladeshi man and folks from other parts of the world. Yay. So yes, I really like that we often take opportunities like this to get together. It's a bit like everybody's just looking forward to getting together and jumping at every excuse.
My mother, sadly, was no longer with us. She was a very strong fan of the Queen, and she always used to look out for the Queen's speech on Christmas Day.
We're also massive fans of our local schools, and so just this week we were having lunch at the Cardigan Centre with Brudenell Primary School. We've been together to lead assemblies at school, and this is a different one, Rosebank Primary School. This is a lovely thing that they do every year. They are part of the Lantern Learning Trust, and so they once a year celebrate themselves by creating lanterns out of Coke bottles and things, and they march them up the hill to have a little party at the Grand Mosque at the top left there, and then they come to All Hallows and have a little party there too. And at the mosque they get a huge welcome and word of hope from Abdul and Sheikh Tahir, the Imam. And then at All Hallows, they get a big welcome from the vicar. It was really moving this year. We were obviously just off on the side here. I guess it's about a year ago, because we had children telling us about the festivals that they were currently celebrating at home. It was a collision of 5. It was Easter, Passover, Vaisakhi, Holi, and Eid. Yes, and that was it was really moving from the mouths of kids about yay tall, hearing them talk about why Easter is special to them, why Eid is special to them, Vaisakhi, what's that all about, teaching each other about their festivals.
Some of the children in them 2 pictures, first time at a mosque, first time in a church. That's
hey. And I guess here's the friendship element of it. He invited me to his daughter's wedding, and it was the most extraordinary day. It was so beautiful and brilliant. So there he is in his glad rags, giving his daughter away. And I think that's the thing that I love most about this, that we're not just professionals, we're not just colleagues, and that we genuinely are friends. And that's really special. And that's yes, the magic ingredient that means we don't fall out, or that if we think differently about things, that's all right. We're going to stick it out together anyway. And I guess the biggest, best lesson that you have been to me is that I can be a confident enough Christian to not be threatened by you. I don't have to be like fragile or something about my faith. It's okay for me to be me, and it's okay for you to be you. Yeah. We're not a danger to each other. And that I wish that a lot more people could learn that lesson through having a fabulous friend like you. Yeah.
My upbringing has been that my mother always taught me to be considerate and understanding about other religions. We see Jesus as one of our prophets, one of the high-ranking prophets, and we see him as the prophet of miracles. And I've always looked at Jesus in a different way, in terms of how he led his people and the kind of things he had to do to prove God's messages. And that's something that always stuck by me. And I always look at things like that. And having Heston, I know he's on my left side, but I wish he's on my right side.
That can be done.
I can always talk to Heston about anything about Christianity, whereas Heston can always talk to me about anything about Islam and stuff like that. And to be honest, guys, they're so identical. You know,
though they're not quite identical.
Yeah, and we look at where the crossroads are and where we can share that experience. And at the end of the day, we are all God's people. You know, that's something that really means to me a lot, and I definitely value it.
And just at a very basic level, that's true, isn't it? We are one human race, whether we like it or not. And so, to learn how to get together, to live together on this earth in a peaceful way, is just a very good survival strategy. But then also it's way more interesting when you're up for having a friend who's different from yourself and that you can learn stuff from. There we go. That's it, much more concisely than we can say it. One from the Muslim way and one from the Christian way. And I really love both of these. Love is the bridge between you and everything, from Rumi. And then Amazing Joan Chichester, if you need a saint, a new saint in your life, if you don't already have her, if you want to know where God is, find the space in your heart that's open. And both of those really challenging, because they invite you to not just love your friends, you have to do that Jesus thing and actually love your enemies as well, which really means turn them into friends. And that's hard work. It's a massive challenge. And so there are difficult things that sometimes we need to talk about. This man is the first to, like, so when a terrorist attack or something happens, first one to say, they're giving us all a bad name. And to see through your eyes your horror and then your mortification that you have to speak for all Muslims when one crazy Muslim has done something horrible. You get judged for that, and you have to explain to everybody why Islam isn't like that. And when actually, like, clearly the massive majority of Islam is not like that. And like, if we Christians were a bit more self-aware, we'd crack back 500 years and see that that's exactly what we were doing to the world. Our little group of crazies was doing exactly the same thing when the majority were trying to be peaceful. So I guess I've learned to feel your pain a little bit whenever something like that happens, and you kind of will force responsibility for it onto you. That's hey, I think that's yeah. He's really good at AI. I've never gone anywhere near AI, so I'm well impressed that he could put us into the Airwolf helicopter. I think that is with that photo. Thank you for letting us waffle at you for a while.
So Dee has expressed interest in visiting a mosque. And so Abdul and Heston were just explaining how that might happen. So do you want to teach that? Other folks think of what questions?
And we be your tour guides. Would you be interested in coming on a Friday? Friday is the most amazing day to go. Makkah Mosque there's about 1,000 people who go to say Jummah prayers on a Friday, and it's, you know, it's the most moving thing to be. I don't go and pray with the Muslims. I sit at the back and I am prayerful with them. So I get a sense of the whole room in unity, bowing and then prostrating. And there's something very moving about seeing this massive room full of people with their noses on the floor. We don't, as Christians, we don't very often prostrate ourselves like that. And it's deeply moving. And then to get the sense of peace and longing for God, and I'm always really moved by coming to prayers. And the other thing that I find a bit of a hoot is Muslims, when they go into the mosque to say their prayers, they fill in from the front and the center, not we want to stay as far back as we possibly can and stay far away from each other. They line up shoulder to shoulder and they say their prayers right next to each other. Very cool.
We can definitely arrange a visit to Makkah Mosque. Would it be for yourself? Yeah.
And it's Friday at 1 or 2 o'clock, depending on whether it's summer or winter. But also it can be other days and other times, and then we might have the place to ourselves.
Yeah. So during winter months, it's 1 o'clock. So from next week, it'll be 2 o'clock because the clocks go for Sunday. Let me speak to Kari Asim. He does a really fantastic speech around the history of the Makkah Mosque, and also if you've got any questions that you want to ask. One thing I would suggest is bring some questions prior to the meeting, and then we'll be able to definitely answer some of the questions. Let's try and do something so that you can go upstairs where the dome is, and you do get a sense of a wow, what's this? And it does make you think. Definitely, we can arrange that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. The question on what, by the way, thank you very much for what you've been saying, but questions about King Charles, who is committed to interfaith dialogue, but King Charles is also a very firm believer in what is called the perennial philosophy, which proclaims that all the major religions share a common underlying spiritual truth. So the point is, while their doctrines differ, they point to the same ultimate reality. So for Charles, all the religions lead to God. Is that the view that you both hold to?
I really hope so, right? That God has not created the whole of humankind to ditch 99% of us into hell, whatever that means. We are one human race, and if we're all right that there is one God, then I really hope that God wants to spend eternity with all of us, not just a tiny little number of us. I don't know whether they all are the right way to God, because we're talking about mysteries, aren't we? We all have our different ideas, and if cleverer people than me or us disagree about this, then I don't know that we're ever going to solve it. But what we can do is do the best with the info that we have and with the invitation that we have to love our neighbors and love our enemies, and then leave that stuff up to God. Be the best humans that we can. That's the common spirituality, isn't it? And then we can be distinctive in our different ways. But as long as we are not harming one another and seeking one another's good, loving our neighbors, loving our enemies, I want to hope that that's okay by God. I know lots of people disagree with that, and that I'm a woolly liberal therefore and things, but that is what I really hope God is like. And that, I guess, is what I see in Jesus, who never turned anybody away from him unless they chose to turn away from him themselves. He said to everybody, come to me, and or who are you and what do you want? I'm open to you. And he didn't exclude anyone until they excluded themselves. And so I guess that's kind of my strategy, is be open to all the humans and hope that God is on their side, because then maybe God is on my side too. Is that a really annoying answer?
Obviously, I don't have time to have the long debate. I don't agree with Charles's view that all religions lead to God, but thank you very much for your answer.
Yeah. What I definitely say 100% certainty is that we all have something to teach each other about God. And if I guess we very easily get defensive. And I guess a lot of life trains us to be defensive. And this is the gift of a friend like Abdul, learning that I don't have to be defensive and fragile with my faith, that he has stuff to teach me about God. I hope I have stuff to teach him about God. Same goes for every single human being on this planet, that if we're made in the image of God, if we're serious about that, then we have stuff to learn from each other about who God is and who people are. And so I think just the basic humility of Jesus says that we need to go, like, to be open to each other and not want to condemn one another and say, you're definitely not on the way to God.
I believe all religions do lead to God, because we believe in the three main religions that are given by the books, the Torah, the Injil, which is the Old Testament, and the Quran. They are God's messages and words that lead to him eventually, day of judgment.
Good, deep question.
Another question over here. I'm not sure this is going to be easy either.
Bring it on, lovely Andrew.
I do know Heston, so I really like that you demonstrate being able to disagree well, and also that you actually do go to length to disagree instead of just skirting around stuff. And my question, and actually what is about what happens when that doesn't work out. That seems to be causing the problem in society, that people cannot disagree well, call it social media or whatever. But I'd like to use the case of the Batley school teacher who showed a caricature of Muhammad in a lesson. And even though he was cleared of malicious conduct by his school, there was a large organised protest, and he's still living in fear because people threatened to murder him 5 years ago. He's still living in fear. The police can't help him. The MP, Kim Ledbetter, spoken out about it. An inquiry has criticised how the whole thing is run. So my question is, it's kind of twofold, because I didn't see the majority of peaceful Muslims standing up for him and protecting him from the mob. That would make a big difference. But my question would be, what would you do if a similar thing happened near you?
Sounds like the Britannia Hotel to me, actually. And yeah, there's a whole lot of folks who are standing outside this hotel where a lot of asylum seekers are housed, shouting about how they are not welcome in this country. And so I guess you'd hope that a bunch of people would pitch up and say, well, actually they are. And you're right to root this in disagreeing well or not well, because then what happens is you end up with protesters and counter-protesters, and we shout at each other, and we end up in trenches and tribes and not making any progress whatsoever. But I think this is what I mean about being, life trains us to be scared of each other, to feel as though we need to protect ourselves because the whole world is out to get us. And it's true. I see it for Muslims. I see it for Jews. I see it in the Christian world as well. I guess an extreme version of this is the Christian nationalism stuff, this like horrific stuff that's happening where they're claiming the cross as a thing that is our symbol, and we use it to bash other people over the heads with and exclude them. That's just a tragedy, and that can't be what God wants for any of us. Surely God must want us to stand with the underdogs, with those who are being victimized. I mean, the word from the prophets is look after the orphans, the widows, the refugees, the people who don't have a family of their own, who are being demonized and outsided by others. So I don't know much about Batley, but I do know that we should be solidaritying with one another every chance we get. Hey, and I was sorry, what?
Jump into the protest and try and protect the teacher.
Yeah.
I can't see why not. I think we have to be understandable in terms of what the narrative is here. And sadly, the media jump on this and they create this monster out of something that could be easily resolved through dialogue and communication and discussion. And that's something that we realize, is that there's a lack of knowledge or awareness of what the boundaries are, what the faith adopts to, and making sure that we can make that work for each other. And
we kind of tiptoe around each other without actually being honest and without dealing with the issue. And I guess maybe the reason that a whole lot of Muslim folks haven't jumped in and said solidarity is that they're also terrified, and so are the Jewish folks, and so are a whole lot of people who are marginalized in this country. Like, it's quite a scary time to be not white, straight, and male, and so that's a massive factor. Like, talked a little bit about every time a terrorist thing happens, you get the responsibility for it forced onto you. There's been a whole bunch of attacks on mosques and on synagogues and on Jewish ambulances and things, like a massive string, more than I know. I think I keep getting little glimpses of actually there's ones that don't make the news, and it's a scary time to be a Muslim person or a Jewish person or a minority person. So I've seen in you, and then also in the Jewish community, fear of speaking out about anything because of the way that everybody's going to be triggered by it. So not to justify lack of solidarity, but there's just a lot of fear in every direction. I see that in lots of lovely friends.
I've been to marches, pro-Palestinian marches, where I've been heckled, and I clearly understand the purpose of that. But I'm not going to go down to their level and have a reaction. But I'd rather have that conversation with them to make them understand my perspectives and my views. And this is what we are lacking, is that dialogue and that understanding, to have that dialogue. And it's based on friendship and love. It's what we're trying to demonstrate today, that it can be done, it does work, there is rewards, and there is so much positives out of it. We need to sometimes think outside of that bubble that we're comfortable in, and just reach out to each other and say, look, I will embrace you, but I'm happy to agree and disagree.
The problem is, I guess, that takes time and trouble, and it takes people who want to do it. And in all sorts of ways, again, we are kind of conditioned to not want to do that, because we're being told by a lot of the media that we need to be suspicious of each other. And like there's literally billions of pounds invested in keeping us divided and separated, it seems. And so it's just really hard to do that. Like it's an exceptional thing when you are able to reach out and make a genuine friendship. And that's really tragic. That feels like there's an agenda there, or a kind of motive, and like some pretty cynical investment happening, which we seem to see. The money that's invested in divisive politics is a really big mountain to climb, or a battle to fight, or something. It's not easy for us to do the hard work, to put in the time with each other, and like reach out and meet somebody who's different. Just want to affirm Andrew as a real superhero of disagreeing well. He's done this with me and with a whole lot of people really, really well for a long.
Thanks so much. We said in our group that you really spread hope. And I think that is so important. There is more that unites us than divides us. And the fear is out there more nowadays than ever. But I think this coming together and understanding each other, you see the person and not the label. You know, I'm from the City of Sanctuary, and we work with lots of people seeking asylum and refugees. And with Fathul Rahman here, I see him as Fathul Rahman, not someone who's a Muslim. You know, it's what's important, I think, is getting to know each other. There was a time when people in a synagogue invited people to go to a service there. I was working with some Muslim women, and one said, oh, I'd love to go to a synagogue, but I'm frightened because they might think I'm trying to plant a bomb there. And we went to the service. It was so similar to a church service, I couldn't believe it. And afterwards, she talked with the rabbi, and she loves languages, and ended up having lessons in Hebrew with him. And I thought, that's the way forward. It's about understanding each other. And I believe that our faith is reaching out and doing what Christ would do. And that's about loving your neighbor. And I think that's what you've demonstrated really well tonight. And I think, you know, we need to think, what are our barriers? And as one Muslim said, no, actually he's a Christian, he said, am I allowed in your church? And I think, do they know that? And maybe we're not reaching out enough, which I think you've demonstrated really well. So thank you very much.
Hallelujah. And I guess like what we've learned is curiosity is a massive superpower, and it's a real force for good in the world, to be curious about each other, and rather than judgmental, I guess, make up our minds about people before we've actually met them. So yay. Hallelujah from me, and mashallah from him. Hey.
It's all right. Getting steps in today.
We've seen lots about the benefits and the joys of watching Airwolf together. What's the hardest thing about interfaith work from your perspectives?
Since October 2023, the fear and suspicion and division that Gaza has wreaked on, like, shockwaved into the world. That this is particularly in the Muslim and the Jewish communities, but Muslim friends are scared to hang out with Jewish friends because of what the other Muslims will say, let alone what the Jews will say, and it's identical in the Jewish community. So that it's been really hard to be. I mean, neither of us has skin in this game, so it's been easy for us to sustain a friendship through all of this. We haven't bickered hugely over it. Hard to see our friends' friendships dissolving. That's a real pity, because there are people that both of us love a lot, who are now not friends with each other and not even wanting to be in the same room as each other anymore. And so to see the way that world events get imported to here in unnecessary ways, that sucks.
Sadly, October the 7th, 2023 has happened. We can't change that. We can't change history. However, we are in control of the future. Us local leaders, we're not responsible, or we can't change the geopolitics. And we have these discussions, like we arrange visits to mosques and churches and synagogues. And the last Bengali Bistro we did last November, we raised money for trauma doctors in Gaza, and then we managed to raise £2,500 for that. And it shows people wanting to help, although they can't physically or get leaders to change that perception, but they can help in other ways. And this is where you can create that dialogue and have people looking at things a bit more differently. Heston on a regular basis goes to the protests at Britannia. And there was one time I said, I want to come, Heston. He goes, Abdul, I suggest you don't come. You remember? So he realized that my safety would have been in danger. And then we're planning to go on Good Friday.
We're going to talk about the cross. We hope we're going to talk about the cross. We've been going for a few months now. Mostly a little group of us who are white allies. So in our little WhatsApp group, there's a real interfaith mixed group of us who have been frustrated by the protest, counter-protest. We all shout at each other and we never get anywhere. We just get more aggressive and more angry. A few of us who have been frustrated by that. And so we've gone to the hotel to take cake and questions, to ask folks, what are you doing here? So ask folks who are protesting and counter-protesting. Also some of the police, also some of the auditors, who are the people who are carrying cameras around, basically trying to incite violence so that they can show they can make money out of videos on social media. So there's a whole lot of really interesting people outside the hotel. We've been going to ask questions, not to take angry energy, to take curious energy, and to see if that's a more constructive thing than just shouting slogans at each other. And we're going to go, we hope, on Good Friday, because I guess UKIP in particular have tried to appropriate the cross as like, we're a bunch of Christians, we're going to say the Lord's Prayer and then march on London and talk about how actually Christianity means being white and male. To go talk about actually the cross is about something very different, and Good Friday is the origin of that. And so hopefully we go have a few interesting conversations. We're going to take cake again. We're going to go and try and be prayerful together as well. And happily, at the moment, it's feeling like it's safe enough for you to join us and carry us in, and Jewish Helen as well. And we might have an interfaith group who go together to say this cross is not just our identity badge, it's the self-giving love of God to the world, and that's a much bigger thing than just the Christians. It can't be just for the Christians, or we're holding all of God's blessings to ourselves, and that's not the deal. Yeah.
I mean, thank you very much for what we've heard. You'll know, I think it's admirable. But our community here in Horsforth is very unlike your community. It's predominantly white, well over 90% white. And a few miles away, there'll be another community that's predominantly from a different racial. But you mentioned at the end of your talk about the very great difficulty that radical Islam poses. You said 500 years ago, Christians were doing that to each other. Yeah, definitely. less so today. But there's an extreme version of Islam, which is the Islam that you hear about when ambulances get burned. Yeah. And my question is, how do we respond to something that is definitely present in this country and definitely evil?
Yes, I'd want to say by not assuming that it's the only evil thing that's happening in this country, and that's a start. That I've heard now for all the 11 years that I've been in Hyde Park, I've heard all of my Muslim friends rant and rave about how disgusting that is. Then I see the media not picking that up and not sharing that at all. And then the media actually conversely add fuel to the fire by I can't remember the exact stat, but it's something like for every positive story about Islam, there are 9 or 10 or 15, or there's a lot of negative stories. The disproportionate reporting of Islam is, I think, maybe as much of a problem as the stuff that actually happens. It's really horrible. So I guess there's a whole lot of other things that are also horrible, and yes, we're learning that rich, white, powerful people are a very toxic presence in the country as well. It looks like it's a different kind of violence. Poverty is a different kind of violence. So I guess I want to muddy the waters a little bit and say it's not the only thing, but we do very disproportionately seem to focus on it. And it seems as though Nigel Farage and folks are leaning into that, and they add to it by disproportionately demonizing Muslims and asylum seekers, and that doesn't feel right. That we don't need to give it, don't need to be giving it the massive priority that we are giving it. There's other bigger issues that we have. So I'm not undermining and saying that it's not happening, but just that there's other stuff as well. We can broaden our horizons. Suffering of the country. Do you have anything to add to that? Is there anything about radical Islam and that, because I've heard you be horrified about it, and that stays local. It doesn't get reported by the press that you are horrified and that you think it sucks. The Muslim voice just isn't.
It won't be heard because it won't sell. The newspapers won't sell. Skies, whoever is a commercial outlet out there, they won't be able to sell any adverts because they need to create something that does sell. And sadly, they won't look at the good. Will this be reported? Very doubt it. You know, I'm not saying you have to go to a press release or anything like that. And this won't sell in a newspaper. You won't see this in the front pages of the Daily Mail. You know, it won't be there because, oh my God, is this where the Daily Mail is heading now? So it's control. The media is a very powerful tool. And sadly, they do control what they want to churn out and how they can embed that narrative in our thinking. And we have to be very selective in terms of what we read out there, and then get a second opinion from a genuine person in terms of, hang on, is this true? Or is this what is perceived as that way? Because the writers and the journalists, they are very smart and clever people. They want to get into your mindset and they want to plant a seed so that you can have these discussions in your sitting room with your children, and so that they are looking at life in a different way rather than what life should be like. And we need to be very careful in terms of what we read out there. I've boycotted quite a lot of newspapers, and I did that deliberately. And I've also boycotted a lot of companies out there because they should be able to give to society a bit more for that cohesiveness, and they don't. And sadly, a lot of people are making money out of this, like Heston has said earlier. And if they didn't churn this kind of stuff out, they'd probably be losing a lot of money. Ultimately, it's controlled by money and greed.
People. I guess another part, the answer to the question is make friends with some normal Muslims, and that then means that when somebody tells you how awful Muslims are, you can complicate the story up a bit, and say it's not quite as simple as Muslims are the devil. being able to say that, to counter that from personal experience is a really helpful thing. Also, just good for our own souls, so we don't start believing stuff that's not true. Yeah.
You were saying that good news stories about Muslims get little coverage. I thought I'd try and share a story that's very local to here and is a very different story about Muslims. Who remembers the Manningham riots in Bradford? And I've forgotten which year they were. Early 2000s.
2001.
2001. The Jewish synagogue on Manningham Lane got seriously damaged in those riots. I wonder if anyone knows who paid for the repairs to the roof of the synagogue on Manningham Lane. It was the Muslims of Bradford who paid for those repairs. Now, that's not a story that gets much coverage. They haven't shouted about it. They've kept it fairly quiet. But it's a wonderful story. And I was told that by some Jewish guys who came to an event at Bradford Cathedral. They were very happy to share that story. They couldn't afford to repair their own roof, but these Muslims could and did so willingly.
Love that. And just can I add to that and say that that's my regular experience of the community, is that there's a lot of very quiet generosity that happens, like in a million different ways. They help us to run our community cafe. They help us to put on parties. They do these beautiful things in quiet, unassuming ways, because this is what God asks of us, to live generously. So hallelujah and amen.
On a similar note, if you ever travel to Doncaster, near the racecourse, you'll notice there's a church. In the churchyard, there's a mosque. And the mosque didn't have any space to build a mosque. And the church said, build it in our garden. If you ever go to Doncaster near the racecourses, you'll see a church and a mosque in the same vicinity. That is cool.
Mine isn't a question, it's just my experience. I used to be chaplaincy visitor at Bradford Royal Infirmary maternity block. And as you've probably guessed, there's quite a few Muslim ladies there having babies. And the chaplaincy visitor team was, I don't think you'd call it interfaith, but it was certainly multi-faith. I think just about every religion was represented in one way or another by one of the visitors. And I found very quickly that it wasn't the fact that I was a Christian, they were a Muslim, that was the problem, but we were both humans. If we hurt ourselves, we both cried. If we cut ourselves, we both bled. We had the same problems. And a lot of the Muslim ladies couldn't understand how I, as a Christian, was, if you like, they thought wasting my time with them, because I wasn't trying to convert them or anything to Christianity. I was just letting them know that we were there as a team for them. And if they had any problems, then they could talk to somebody. And I learned a heck of a lot, that it's getting close to people, getting to know them, that you start to understand them, you start to like them, or not, as the case may be.
That's like, it's good Christian theology, isn't it? That we think God is love and God has made us in love and for love. That's just proving it right. That the closer we get to people, the more we like them, we grow to love them, and we feel connected. Then we don't want anything bad to happen to them. We look after each other. So that's the thing that feels like it's just deteriorated a lot. And it's the thing that will heal the world.
Hello.
You're a lovely Tim.
I live in Hyde Park. So first of all, I'd just like to say thank you. You guys you don't just speak beautifully, but you lead by example. I find it incredibly inspiring. I see the work that you do on a daily, weekly, yearly basis, and it is absolutely incredible. So thank you on behalf
Tim
of
is very
my
often a part of
community.
it as well.
Thank
He's
you.
giving us all the credit.
Thank you, Tim.
Not. Just to give you some background, that these two gentlemen are not just speaking the right things. what I love about them is that they act everything they've spoken about tonight. They do in their daily work, and it's absolutely fantastic. I've actually got two questions. One is about the role of hospitality in your work and how effective it is. I'm interested in, from an Islamic point of view and a Christian point of view, what is perhaps the maybe scriptural foundation, or what element of faith draws you to hospitality in your work? And my second question is, having been brought up in Horsforth and now living in a very what I find a much more diverse environment, how much of your community work has been as a result of the environment that you live, and how much do you feel it's naturally inside you to be open to diversity and different beliefs and interfaith?
Cool question. Yeah. And I guess both of us coming from different countries entirely, that's a great question. For me, I think I've been massively formed by growing up. My first 11 or 12 years were in apartheid South Africa. And so when I turned 13, all of a sudden, a bunch of black kids came to our school, and we realized that we'd been inflicting this horror onto the majority of the people in our country. And that the formation of the Rainbow Nation and the realization that we are not only stronger when we live life together, but actually we're more beautiful, and like this is just good humanity when we're not demonizing and excluding and torturing 90% of our neighbors. That's had a huge impact on me. And so then to bring some of that rainbow vibe over here leads pretty directly into the hospitality that we do. Then to add the Christianity to it, every Sunday we share a bit of bread and a bit of wine, the meal of freedom, which is the Eucharist. And I love that at All Hallows we're able to then not only share the symbolic meal on a Sunday, but also turn it into reality through the week, the community cafe. And that it means that I meet a huge number of people, and I learn that people are fantastic. Everybody that I sit down and eat with, like they have something cool to teach me about life and about people and God and the universe and everything. And it feels like a really natural outworking of the Eucharist to share hospitality. And I think what it teaches me of what I then see in the divine way is generosity, is self-giving and inviting a response, not coercing a response or forcing anything, but offer in generosity. And if folks want to respond, then that's lovely. We can turn it into something beautiful, but nobody has to get on board with this. And so there's a lovely gentle touch about that. That also is quite a good way to make friends, because you're not just getting into friendships with strings attached, with ulterior motives. You can then let people be themselves. They're not an end to your a means to your end. They can just be themselves and be a gift to you, and vice versa. That's a bit of a waffle answer to all of that, but cool question. Is lovely. How about you?
That's a very good question, Tim. I've been brought up with the understanding that hospitality is what we do. If you ever haven't been to a Bangladeshi family, I suggest you go visit one, and you'll see the hospitality that we can offer. You're ensured to leave.
Come to All Hallows tomorrow night. You are.
You're ensured to leave with a full stomach of food, and some really good vibes and some fun in that interaction. Yeah, and you see our culture, our identity in a different way. End of the day, we are human beings. It's just that I'm a different skin color, but I'm still a human being, and I'm there to serve. What was your second bit, Tim?
How much do you think you've been formed by your attitude towards diversity, interfaith, bringing people together from diverse backgrounds? How much do you think is a result of the environment that you find yourself in or were brought up in, and how much do you feel was just naturally inside you?
Yep. On a personal level, 1984, 85, I was about 13, and
peak
PK, that's where I first saw it. I was living with my sister in East London, and it was a very traumatic and horrible experience living in East London, especially around Whitechapel and Stepney Green. Randomly, on 3 occasions, walking down Whitechapel Road and near Brick Lane, white people would physically come up to me and punch me in the face, randomly. Obviously, they wanted a reaction, and God willing, he said, don't react. And I could have done, but as I grew older, I faced more inequality when I was in school. And that's when it got me thinking in terms of, I can't fight with my fists, but I'm going to fight with my thinking. And that's what I've been doing. I've been campaigning for equality and dealing with inequality from the age of 15 for youth provisions, community provisions, and all that kind of stuff. When internet was out, I decided to research on my name. What does it mean Islamically? What does it mean to be called Abdul Hannan? And I checked everywhere, and it came up with the same narrative and answer. The name means I am God's servant, to serve him. And I look back at that, and I always said to my mom, my dad had passed away by then, I said, Mom, I am so glad that you kept that name to serve God in various ways. And sadly, history makes us look at things a bit more differently. Hence, why we do and why I do what I do now is I want to leave something behind in this temporary world that we're in, so that people like yourselves and the people that we represent and serve can change people's perceptions and ideology. And it's about having these conversations. Sadly, it's based on some history that I have to share with people. And that's my way of thinking and dealing with the challenges that we have in life.
There's so much I want to say, but I know that it's 9 o'clock, so I'll keep this brief. I want to say thank you for lots of things. Thank you, first of all, Heston, for just writing your telephone number and email address and giving it to Abdul and saying, ring me. And thank you, Abdul, for taking the invitation and getting on the phone and starting what everybody can see is quite a beautiful friendship. Airwolf notwithstanding, they took a risk on each other, and I think that's paid huge dividends. And they showed a commitment to stay in relationship even when it's tough. And I think that's a lesson for all of us, not just in interfaith situations, but in life in general. So thank you for that example. And one of the things that Abdul mentioned is a frustration, is that these things don't get written and spoken about. So my, if you like, my call to you is to tell at least 3 people about what you've heard tonight, okay? And the positive example that you've heard of people from different faiths actually building community cohesion, enjoying each other's company, sharing hospitality, and sharing life together. So please do take that away. I'm not going to check. But also, thank you for the invitation to visit the mosque. I'm sure we'll be taking that up. So please, friends, do show massive respect and friendship, and thanks for Abdul and Heston.